is obsessed with the 80s. So the soundtrack is mostly like 80s music.
Hometown, state, guys.
Wait, who's obsessed with 80s music?
1980s.
Oh.
2080s music isn't nearly as interesting so far. No, it is. It's out there. I'm sure you could get the DVD or download it or however people watch movies these days.
Everywhere. You can watch a movie everywhere.
I understand that the Chinese have a new downloadable videos, TikTok or something. Apparently, they're under investigation
Yes.
because.
Watching.
Oh, really?
I guess they want to.
Yeah, it's tracking you.
But the neat thing about Ready Player One, either the book or the movie, is that it blends the virtual reality with everyday life. Years ago, I had a student made me read Neil Stephenson's book, Snow Crash. Ever heard of it? Snow Crash? They've never made a movie for that, as far as I know. But that made me a fan of Neil Stephenson, which I ended up reading a bunch of his stuff. Some of it was really interesting. But Neil Stephenson, never heard of him? The titles of his books are usually odd, different ways. I keep forgetting that we have this device right here, so you don't need to. Oh, I want. Science fiction, historical fiction, cyberpunk, post-cyberpunk. So if you've not caught on to cyberpunk, it's too late. It's post-cyberpunk now. It changes fast. But so some of his novels, Zodiac I have it, but I never really got into it. Snow Crash was the one that I was first made to read by a student that absolutely insisted I read it, and I did. And I got it from the Luzak library. I checked it out. And I remember what was really strange about it was I went to the stacks, or how did I find? I looked it up. We had, it wasn't card catalog anymore. It was computer. And I found it in the library. It was there, and I went to this shelf spot where it was supposed to be, and it wasn't supposed to be out. It was supposed to be there, and it wasn't there. So I went to that old lady that pushes the cart around that goes down into the basement and has the ghost throw all of her cards all over the place. In the Luzak. Anybody get the Ghostbuster reference? Yeah. But so she went downstairs and gave me the book. So that book was hidden down there. You had to ask for it. They weren't just going to have it out on the shelf for people to check it out.
Oh, willy-nilly.
That was weird. And by the way, at one point in the book, there was this card that said Snow Crash, and the page had been ripped and then taped. And what's funny, of course, is that in the book, characters get a card. They're handed a card in the virtual reality game. They hand you a card, and if you rip it, you get the Snow Crash. That's how you activate the app, basically. And what it does is it drives you insane. So. But it was absolutely hilarious that whoever had previously someone had checked out the book and ripped the card in the book. And I was, no, that's just, this is our town, right? But some of these, Cryptonomicon, haven't you heard of some of these? These are pretty famous, guys. The Baroque Cycle. Anathem. Anathem was absolutely fascinating because you've got all these different languages that he creates. It's like the Earth, but it's way in the future, and all the scientists are monks living in universities, and the regular people are outside, and they're and so it's like the science and religion are reversed and everything. And then there's a problem where that it unifies everybody because aliens are coming to the Earth, and so they end up then engaging with the aliens and so on. And of course, the big surprise at the end. Anybody going to read it and be mad at me because I'm ruining it for you right now? No? Okay, so I'll tell you. Turns out that the aliens are actually us. This has been an alien world all along that you thought was us, but it's actually the aliens, and we're the aliens to them. So that was pretty interesting. Sorry about that.
That's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, same concept.
No, see, I haven't seen that one, so
Really, that's a classic.
nope, I don't think so.
It's considered one of the classics.
But I don't know how you say that. Seven Eves? Seven Eves
Yeah, but you didn't know who they were until.
is relatively.
Once they cloned you, you didn't know.
And this one, Reamed. So that's kind
It's been so long since I saw it.
That's an old movie.
of okay. So let's move on. All that stuff is interesting and opening all sorts of new puzzling areas for philosophy. Because how do we deal with virtual reality? It's real, it's just virtual reality. Okay. Sure that cleared everything up. So the next, Nietzsche, God is dead. We talk a little bit about this already. I suppose the main concern we have here is that Nietzsche is arguing, thus spake Zarathustra as he comes down from the mountain, both in the book and in real life, because this is almost autobiographical. And if you go on and look, Brittany, or Bettany Hughes rather, I don't think maybe I could find it. I feel like I looked for this already.
I feel like you did. We talked about it. Comes into that small town, and they were reciting it as if it just happened yesterday. This is the rock he stood by, and all that.
Yeah. So somehow I already brought that up. But she goes and visits that house up on the mountain. I've gone there with my Oculus Rift too, and you can look outside, but you can't go in the house. Rats. But I guess that's true in real life. You can't go in the house either. It's a bed and breakfast or something, but I guess you could visit and go in, but no one's taking pictures in there. Like Van Gogh's house, you can see that on a lot of them. The Impressionist that did all the water lilies, Monet. Yeah, you could go on the trails around those ponds or lakes, and you can go in the house, about 7 or 8 rooms. Absolutely horrendous, though, I'm sure, if you actually went, because every picture, every room was wall-to-wall people on the tour, going through, and I thought, yeah, I can just see going to a small little town in kind of rural France to go and see this house and be in there with 100 people. It's just not my, And the whole town was all little cafes all along the path that you had to walk, because it's not big enough for a car, really, so be interesting. But you can go and visit there. In fact, you could, even with this, I'm sure I could just go, what's it, Monet's house? In Gardens? I bet, because,
Try plugging in your
This is in
house.
France?
See if you can do that.
pardon?
You tried plugging in
Oh, yeah. It's locked in on one particular, when you look at it from the top, there's snow. But then when you're on street level, it's during the summer. And you could tell exactly how many years ago, which cars I have in the driveway and, and all that stuff.
Watching.
I wanted Google Earth for this though. But you can do it, even with just a flat screen. It's of course not the same as feeling like you're, there, but, okay. So what's Nietzsche trying to do here? God is dead. Of course, he's quoting from multiple sources. Martin Luther, God is dead. We have killed him, and who have we killed? We've killed God. And God was killed because he died for our sins. So our sinning is what killed God for Martin Luther, right? He died on the cross for our sins. So we have killed him. But what Nietzsche is arguing about is not that we've actually killed Jesus on the cross because of our sins, but instead we no longer need the narrative of God and God dying for us, because we've outgrown that, right? Mankind has evolved past that point. We're now Ubermenschen and realize that those are just man-made stories, inventing gods in our own image. If we were horses, we would have gods that look like horses, right? And that kind of thing. It's, of course, the crowd that he's talking to as he comes down the mountain. He says, "God, I'm looking for God." He says, "They said, why? Is he lost? Did he get away?" They're making fun of him, etc. But what, of course, he means is, I've come too soon. You're not ready for this message yet. You're still going to the church and worshiping, the dead God in his crypt, right? It's just a memorial for the old narrative that we no longer need, right? Because we've become adults now. We no longer believe in those childish stories. We realize that life is just us, and that we have to make meaning for ourselves. We can't just believe. I'm doing Nietzsche. This is Nietzsche now, right?
And it's freedom for the true discovery of the true seas, the expanse of all of that. He's saying that with all that was a crutch, but with this, we ourselves
Come into
have
our
the
own.
ability to now discover what we should have always been able to discover in its true self and our liberties. We're free of it. How it kind of ends the article, I think.
Yeah. Well, of course, there's lots more Nietzsche to read if you want. Some of it's good.
So if it's not.
What's good?
Some of it's not, actually. A lot of people talk about that. He was on and off, so there were times where he was absolutely amazing, and other times you were like, oh, is there anything else?
I can't remember, didn't he have a psychiatric condition?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He went crazy at the end? I can't remember.
For about 11 years, he was living upstairs in the house where his sister Elizabeth took care of him.
Nazi.
And people, she was.
Yeah.
He was not, probably.
Probably.
Can't really. People that like him argue that he's no way he was a Nazi, and people that don't like him think absolutely he was a Nazi, right? Look at the picture of Hitler standing, by the bust of Nietzsche, and Elizabeth gave his walking stick to Hitler, and so on, and Hitler.